we'd like to acknowledge that this podcast is being performed on the Toronto traditional lands of the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabeg, the Huron-Wendat, and the Mississaugas of the Credit.
And we'd also like to acknowledge that this podcast is being filmed on the traditional Miami lands of the Tequesta peoples and the Miccosukee peoples. We highly encourage you to check out and learn more about these Indigenous groups. They're fascinating. Thank you very much and enjoy the podcast. Hello, viewers, and welcome to the next episode of the CrossCon and Chats Sports Podcast. I am your host for this episode, Rachel Bishop in Toronto, Ontario, joined by my friend and colleague, Charlie Wayman in Miami, Florida. So, as you noticed last week, we only had 3 questions. We're going to keep it similar this week. It's only 3 questions as well. So let's get right into it. All right, so question number 1. The Edmonton Eskimos of the Canadian Football League, Cleveland Indians of the MLB, which is Major League Baseball, and the Washington Redskins of the NFL have all announced that they are undergoing name reviews and may change their respective team names. So what should the new team names be and why?
That's kind of a hard question to answer because I really don't know. Personally, for any of these teams, I would definitely pick a name that has nothing to do with any race or anything, something that's a little bit more neutral because you kind of want to avoid, any potential issues in the future. I guess we can start with the CFL and the Edmonton Eskimos. I would definitely keep it into a name, that starts with an E, just because the looks really good on the logo, and you don't have to change the logo that much. I would do something like the Edmonton Explorers or something like that. Pay a little bit of a tribute to some of Canada's exploratory history. That's an example of what I would do. The Cleveland Indians, I really don't know what they can do. I don't really know much about Cleveland. To be honest, I've only heard bad things about Cleveland. They don't have the greatest nickname either, Mistake by the Lake. So I don't really know what to say to that one. But definitely, yeah, get rid of Indians, get rid of Chief Wahoo, which they've already done a couple of years ago. I would definitely, I don't know what to name them, to be honest. Maybe something related to Civil War history on the Union side of Civil War history. The Washington Redskins, there's a lot of stuff that's been floating around where the idea is to call them the Washington Red Tails. It's a pretty cool name. It's a catchy name. I like the idea. It does a tribute to one of the most amazing stories in American history, which is the Red Tails, a.k.a. the Tuskegee Airmen, which are a historic African-American regiment in World War II. And essentially, they were fantastic, one of the best regiments, most successful regiments in World War II for the United States Army. While that is great, I still believe that they should change their name to something that's a little more neutral. I just have a feeling that even though the Red Tails would be great and it would pay tribute and homage to, an amazing African-American Tuskegee Airman story, I just think that at some point somebody's going to go after them for that name, as an example. Well, you don't donate to this organization enough that helps African-American kids, but you call yourselves the Washington Red Tails, things like that. They might go, it's very possible that they might go after owner Dan Snyder, because, wow, you own a franchise that is named after the Tuskegee Airmen. Maybe the franchise should be a different person. I'll put it that way. So I think they should go with a name that's been, another one that's been really popular is the Washington Warriors. It's simple, it's easy. You could put a sword through the W, it's something simple and easy that is neutral and, avoids any possibility of controversy in the future.
All right. I kind of like that name as well, the Washington Warriors. It has a nice ring to it. Although the problem with Warriors, a lot of lacrosse teams are called that. The problem with Warriors is it also has connotations to indigenous culture, and people could say it's cultural appropriation if they use that name. So,
Yeah, but I disagree with that, to be honest, because there's warriors doesn't exactly only mean Native Americans. Warriors can be, in ancient China. Warriors can be in the African tribes. The warriors can be uh, barbarians or Vikings. The warriors can be, a Wounded Warrior Project.
hmm
That's a famous nonprofit that helps wounded war veterans. So pretty much the concept of a warrior is basically somebody fighting in a battle. So that can
that's
mean
true.
soldiers as
That's true.
well.
That's true.
I don't think it. I don't think it attributes to Native Americans at all or indigenous cultures. I view that as pretty neutral.
Okay, no, I agree with you. I'm just saying some people might say that. So, all right. So now moving on, moving away from that into more fun topics. So the NHL recently announced its three finalists for the Ted Lindsay Award. So this award is the trophy awarded to the best player in the league as voted on by the players. So it's different from the Hart Trophy, which is the MVP as voted on by the media. So the three finalists for this shortened season of the Ted Lindsay Award are Leon Draisaitl of the Edmonton Oilers, Nathan MacKinnon of the Colorado Avalanche, and Artemi Panarin of the New York Rangers. None of these three players have ever won the award before, and only MacKinnon was previously a finalist. So who should win this trophy and why?
Uh, I would say, to be honest, I would say Artemi Panarin. He definitely deserves this award, uh, simply because the Rangers, without Artemi Panarin, are not a playoff team. They're a good team. They're a competitive team. They're a fast team, but they're not in a dynamic playoff team without Artemi Panarin. He's essentially carried the offense of that team on his back. A lot of folks would disagree with me and say, well, Mika Zibanejad scoring a bunch of goals, but they don't realize that Mika Zibanejad plays with Artemi Panarin. And uh, that's a reason. Who do you think is assisting on most of those goals? Artemi Panarin. So I would say that Artemi Panarin definitely deserves it. Of course, all of them deserve it. They're all fantastic players. Nathan MacKinnon is one of my favorites. And he's an absolute monster in his own. He's definitely
Hmm?
the king of. I call him the king of Colorado. That's my personal nickname for him. But to be honest, it definitely goes to Artemi Panarin this year. The bread man deserves it.
I love that nickname. I agree with you. I think it should be Artemi Panarin for sure. When he was in Chicago, people thought, oh, he's just Patrick Kane's. He's good because he's on a line with Patrick Kane. And then what does he do? He goes to Columbus without Patty Kane and absolutely destroys. And then we realized how stupid Chicago was for giving up Panarin. And now in the Rangers, as you said, he's basically the reason why that team is doing as well as they're doing now. Best player in the league and MVP are usually, it depends on what your meaning is. Sometimes they go to two different people, but oftentimes they do go hand in hand. And for my money, Artemi Panarin was the best player in the league this season. So I think he deserves the trophy just based on how effective he was this year alone. So I agree with you on that.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of people think, oh, it's just points. It's really a lot more than that. I really see this award. Points is, you're Art Ross. That's the way I see it. Um, it's more than that. It's leadership. It's the ability to carry your team when your team's hurting or, you know, uh, hurting or not performing. It's how do I put it? It's just the ability to make your team better than it actually is, and just to be there in the right moments and to carry it on your back. We know Sidney
Hmm.
Crosby's done it pretty much every year since he's entered the league. He's pretty much him and a healthy Malkin and a very rarely healthy Chris Letang are the only reason the Penguins are a relevant team these days, in my honest opinion. Uh, yeah, that's the way I see it. It's a lot more than just points. It's definitely leadership. It's definitely just the ability to be there for your team and overcome any possible
Hmm.
adversity for yourself, but also the adversity of your teammates and your coaches.
Hmm. I could see Panarin winning this, and then Nathan McKinnon winning the Lady Byng, because he's also a finalist for the Lady Byng, and that often goes to the player whoever doesn't win the Hart or the Ted Lindsay, a really talented player who takes very few penalties. Often that person wins the Lady Byng. So I could see McKinnon maybe winning that, and Panarin winning this.
You could also include any player who doesn't win the Selke against the Lady Byng, aka Alexander Barkov of the Florida Panthers, who got absolutely robbed of his Selke, but then eventually a year later he ended up with a Lady Byng.
This year, except for Ryan O'Reilly, this year it's definitely more of an offensive award because the other nominee is Austin Matthews, not known for his defense.
Yeah, no, he's not. That's for sure. And he's gonna hit 50 goals. So that's how he is.
Yeah, for sure. And the Leafs haven't had a major trophy award winner since 2008. So.
And to be honest, that's okay.
And it was the Masterton Trophy.
And it's okay because it's nice to see other teams do it because the NHL is not about the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Whatever you say. Come on,
Toronto's
the center of the universe. Everybody knows this.
That's what every Torontonian believes. It's not, people. If you want to really know the center or the mecca of hockey culture, it's Montreal. Montreal is hockey's cathedral. Hockey is a religion there. If you want the center for basketball in Canada, it's Toronto. Sure, go for it. If you want the center for baseball in Canada, it's Toronto. But the center for hockey in Canada, Montreal.
Unfortunately, I can't argue with that.
It's Montreal.
I like to pretend it's Toronto to make myself feel better, but it's not, and it's okay. All right, moving on from that. Final question for today. The reigning women's WNBA star, women's WNBA star, Elena Del Don, had her medical opt-out of return to play denied. So Dawn has battled Lyme disease for several years, and her personal doctor has told her that she's high risk of contracting COVID. And if she got it, it would be bad because it's Lyme disease. Whereas the league panel of independent league doctors have stated that she is not, and thus claim that she should play when the WNBA season resumes on July 25th. So what do you think is the next step? Should the NBA get involved since they own the league? Should she get a second opinion besides her doctors that are unaffiliated with the NBA? Should she play? What do you think?
Well, I understand. Medically, she's high risk. I understand with COVID, but if the concept is they're in a bubble and everybody's tested and people aren't going in and out and everybody's constantly tested for this, why not? Why can't she play? If everybody's tested, everybody's negative, assuming, because if the second you're positive, they're going to take you out of the bubble. Why can't you play? If everybody's with COVID, that everybody does not have COVID-19, then she's not going to get COVID-19 because she's in a bubble. Exactly. Should she play? Well, if she wants to, it's her choice and it's her body and it's whatever she feels like. I wouldn't see a problem playing if the bubble is up to par with health standards. I know previously we talked about a bit of the issues with the cleanliness of the rooms where they are in Bradenton, Florida. But should she play? Well, yeah, I think she should be cleared to play if she wants to. It's all up to her in the end because she can opt out of it. I assume, like other players, she can opt out of it for health reasons.
As I just said, her opt-out was denied.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So her opt-out was denied.
Yeah.
So she doesn't want to play.
That right. But the doctor said she's fit to play, but her doctor says she's not.
Yes, but she opted out of it. So it was her choice for health reasons not to want to play. So what I'd like to understand is why was it denied when it's so easy for an NBA player or an NHL player to just opt out of it, and they might not even have a medical issue. She's got, a history of Lyme disease. It's not a great disease. So
No.
what I really would like to understand is, why was it denied? It's a health reason. And if other players are basically saying, no, I want to stay with my family, so I don't want to play this summer, I think this is nonsense. If they can do it for that reason,
Mm-hmm.
why can't she do it for this viable medical reason?
That's a great question. I don't know.
Because NBA players have the freedom to do this. The NHL players have a freedom to do this.
Yep.
So why not why not this particular WNBA player? She doesn't want to play.
Mm-hmm.
If she opted out of it, she doesn't want to play for health reasons.
Mm-hmm.
She's got a legitimate health reason, and it sounds like they're going to force her to play.
Yeah, and if she ends up not playing, even though they said she has to play, then she doesn't get paid, which the WNBA is denying. Her team, the Washington Mystics, are denying that, but she says she wouldn't get paid if she didn't play because they said she's medically fit to play. So that's she could be forced to play just for that reason alone, to get money, right? To get a salary.
Okay, now, yeah, I don't understand that. Actually, no, I do understand why if she's medically fit to play, why she shouldn't get paid. Sorry, she wouldn't get paid, because the WNBA doesn't have the kind of money the NBA does, where they can just pay them, and they could be, a healthy scratch.
Yeah.
The WNBA doesn't have that kind of money, so they don't offer that kind of benefit yet until they make more money. But yeah, I don't understand why they would deny her. She has a legitimate reason. I don't really understand that. I don't think she should. Now that I know that, she tried to opt out, I don't think she should play. I think she should protest. Because she has a legitimate reason, and other players are healthy, and they just want to stay with their family and not risk anything.
Maybe the WNBA, you have to get permission to opt out. I'm not sure the logistics of their form, but maybe that you have to actually get permission to opt out in that league. I'm not sure why you would.
Yeah, well, that's the question. Is, we need to find out why. Why was it denied? Because she has a legitimate reason. So why would they deny this?
It could be that because she's the reigning MVP, she's going to bring in more revenue because people are going to tune in to watch her play. So they had dollars, the bottom line in the back of their mind, right? Because they're league doctors, and they thought, okay, she's the reigning MVP. We're going to deny her the opt-out so she plays, therefore more people tune in to watch her, and we bring in more revenue since there's no fans. That could be the only reason I would think of.
Yeah, that's definitely a possibility, but if I were her, now, if she's going to get denied and they're going to force her to play, if I were her, I'd be saying, well, you're going to have to give me a bonus to play. You're going to have to give me more money. You're going to force me to do this and risk my health for this? Well, Washington Mystics, what's my bonus at the end of this tournament? Because it's nonsense. So you might as well demand more money for it. At least compensate me a little bit for extra $50,000, whatever it is. Compensate me for forcing me to do this.
Did the WNBA players have a union?
I don't know. To be honest, I just don't really know much about the league. I know it's a great league, and I know now the highest paid players in the league make $500,000 a year, which for a women's league is great. That is a great. And the WNBA is gaining popularity, and it is quality basketball. They shoot. I've seen a couple of games. They shoot. They know how to shoot really well. Personally, I would like to see a little bit more dunking, but they're gonna they might have to lower the rim for some of that, because unfortunately, just biologically, not every single woman is going to be on average 6'5" or 6'6". So, yeah, but yeah, I don't know. I would imagine they have some sort of union.
I would think they would.
It might not be as powerful as the NBA. But I'm sure they have some sort of union, or they get represented by the same agents in the same union as NBA players. It is a conglomerate of the NBA, so I would imagine do the same union.
Yeah, I was just going to say that the union can maybe get involved and file a grievance on her behalf if that's something that they can do. But again, I don't know if they have a union or how powerful it is, but it'll be interesting to follow. So that concludes our question portion for this podcast. And now we like to move on to the segment that we call Sports Spectacles with Charlie, where he previews his upcoming games for the week, things to watch out for, and etc. So take it away, Charlie.
Thank you very much, Rachel. Much appreciated. I don't have too much for you guys this week because it's actually, the beginning of the end of some seasons. On the 22nd of July, in Serie A, or the Italian Football League, you have Inter Milan against Fiorentina. This is very good. This is a really good match. This should be exciting to watch. Fiorentina has a young, dynamic winger in Federico Chiesa. Really dynamic. He has been linked previously with English clubs. Of course, Inter Milan is Inter Milan. They haven't been as good as they used to, but they're brewing something. They're cooking something over there. So I think it should be a pretty exciting match. Definitely something to watch if you're interested in Italian football. The other thing I really want to touch upon is the 26th of July. You like England? You like football? You like probably a beer? Do you like going to the pubs? Great, because you're going to want to tune in. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 matches today. Sorry, not today. On the 26th. I believe it's the end of the Premier League. We have some excellent ones. We have Chelsea against the Wolverhampton Wanderers. That's going to be really exciting. We're going to have Leicester City and Manchester United, who are battling for a Champions League spot. Leicester City is 5th, Manchester United is 4th, so that's going to be quite a match. We're also going to have West Ham United and Aston Villa. Definitely not top teams, but Aston Villa is in the relegation zone. West Ham, they're either there or they're really close to it, so that should be an interesting battle. We also have Newcastle United and Liverpool. Let's see if Liverpool have gotten up to speed after their completely embarrassing loss to Arsenal the other day. So let's hope Liverpool can beat Newcastle. I would hope that they would. So those are my sports spectacles for the week.
Very much for that, Charlie. Those look like some really interesting matches to end off the Premier League season for sure. So now just moving on to the penultimate segment. This is what we like to call the marketplace. So this is where I talk about some upcoming transfers and sports news to watch out for coming up, especially there's a lot happening in soccer right now because the transfer window is going to open in soccer quite soon. And of course, not too much in hockey because the season's on right now. So it's mostly soccer. So the first thing to note is that so starting off with some female soccer. So Jessie Fleming, who's a midfielder on the Canadian national women's soccer team. She's 22. She just finished up her college career at UCLA. She has all 4 years of her eligibility, and she just signed with A&V Sports Agency, and she will be turning pro. It appears that was interesting to know about her is that she decided to finish her degree and didn't enter the National Women's Soccer League draft, which is what a lot of North American players do after they finish their college career. But we've been seeing on the men's side as well lately too, more and more of the young up and coming star players for both men and women on Team Canada deciding to play in Europe, which is really nice because we're seeing, that's always been we haven't had a lot of Canadian soccer stars that have played in Europe. Obviously the women Europe is not as good as the men's Europe, but it's still probably better than what you're going to get in North America. So it's quite interesting. She'll probably play in Europe, which is where a lot of her teammates play right now. And she signed to the same agency as Kadisha Buchanan, who is, for my money, the best defender in the world in women's soccer. It'll be interesting to see if she ends up following Kadisha Buchanan to Lyon in the French league. And Fleming is actually the second youngest player ever to play for Team Canada. She made her debut in September of 2013 at the age of just 15. So second youngest behind Cara Lang. So quite impressive. She's a really talented player. So definitely watch out to see where she goes for sure. And then the next thing that I have for the marketplace is the president of the Japanese Olympic Committee said that if Tokyo does a good job and hosts the Olympics next year, which is supposed to be this year, that Sapporo has a good chance to host the 2030 Winter Olympics, which Japan has said they're interested in hosting. Yes, Sapporo, like the beer, if you guys are wondering. And Sapporo will face stiff competition from Salt Lake City, who's already hosted an Olympics. They'd be a good option, or Barcelona, who of course hosted the 1992 Summer Olympics. And this is according to the Associated Press. So that would be something interesting to watch to see if Japan ends up doing it. Seems like the Asian countries are the ones that end up getting the Olympics now anyways, because they're the ones who can afford it. Of course, we know the next Olympics are going to be in Beijing in 2022, and then 2026 are going to be in Milan and Abruzzo, Italy. So the IOC might want to go back to Asia after Italy, depending on how well that goes or how well it doesn't go. So that would be something interesting to watch out for as well. And then the last thing that we have for the marketplace, it's another soccer related news. So last week I previously talked about Jonathan David and how he had a lot of suitors for him. How Ghent, his current team right now, wants to start a bidding war. Arsenal in the Premier League, of course, is very interested. And as I mentioned last week, Lille in the French league made an offer, and he has previously said now that he is probably going to go to Lille. He said to The Guardian in April that he saw the Premier League as the best league in the world and he eventually wants to go there. But I think right now he wants to go to Lille as kind of a stepping stone, as a halfway point between the Belgian league and the Premier League. And it's nearby where he is right now in Ghent. And he already speaks French, he said, so that would be a bonus. The deal is reportedly worth 25 million euros. For 5 years. So pretty good hefty deal there for Jonathan David, who's another up and coming Canadian soccer player. Not as much in the spotlight as Alphonso Davies, but I think he's definitely named to watch. And he and Davies will make for a dynamic combination when Canada co-hosts the 2026 World Cup. And that's all I have for the marketplace this week.
Usually we do this every other week, but we're going to do it this week because we felt like it. We're going to do another episode of Ranting with Rachel. So if you don't know what this is, Ranting with Rachel is I give Rachel 5 minutes to rant about a topic that I come up with that really grinds her gears, that really messes with her. And this one is a really good one, and I bet you tons of NHL fans will definitely agree with us. Rachel, the topic is the favoritism of the NHL towards the Edmonton Oilers. And 3, 2, 1. Begin.
All right. Thank you for that, Charlie. So, yes, this might not be so popular amongst our Edmonton folks, but favoritism of the Edmonton Oilers. So, first of all, we saw how Wayne Gretzky joined the Oilers at the end of the 70s and the 80s, and that made people want to actually watch the Oilers, which they never wanted to do before. And the Oilers, of course, under Wayne Gretzky, won a lot of Stanley Cups and made it to a lot of Stanley Cup finals, but it made everyone want to go to Edmonton. And he wasn't even drafted into the NHL, and it's just because the Edmonton Oilers came from the World Hockey Association is the reason why he ended up on that team. He somehow basically ended up in their lap. So that's not really more favoritism as it is sheer luck, but whatever. And then we move over to the 2000s when his 8th place Edmonton Oilers team, a very gritty performance, I will give them credit, made it all the way to the Stanley Cup final in 2006, thanks to the outstanding play of Fernando Pisani, who then got a huge contract. And, well, no one knows who Fernando Pisani is, so that explains everything. They lost to the Carolina Hurricanes in the Stanley Cup Final, and that was a really big moment for Edmonton fans and for Canadian fans. And Edmonton Oilers fans really thought they were going to go somewhere, but really they've just been treading water since then, because we've talked about this ad nauseum. They have an old boys club still running the organization upstairs from all the guys who played in the 80s glory days with Wayne Gretzky and are still holding on to that past. And this is why they'll never have success. They had 3 first overall draft picks in a row, starting with Taylor Hall in 2010, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins in 2011, and Nail Yakupov in 2012. They've kicked 2 of them out. Yakupov actually fled to the KHL because his development was so ruined by the Edmonton Oilers. Taylor Hall is now in Arizona, and he is lighting it. He won the Hart Trophy as league MVP a couple years ago, playing for the New Jersey Devils, and he got traded 1-for-1. That was a really bad deal by Peter Chiarelli, and that again was an example of Edmonton not treating their superstars very well. They've also gotten rid of Jordan Eberle, who was a former first overall draft pick and a Canadian hero in the World Juniors for his late game heroics against Russia in the 2009 semifinals. And the only player they've kept out of those 3 really superstars, other than Connor McDavid and now Leon Draisaitl, is Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, who, a good player, has not amounted really to the superstar that they thought he would. All that being equal, they have still not made the Stanley Cup Final. They've only recently made the playoffs, and that's because of Connor McDavid. If they still keep getting these high draft picks. They even won the lottery a couple of years ago and were able to move up to 4th. I think that's actually how they got Draisaitl maybe that year. So Edmonton still wins lotteries, and still the league still tries to give them success. And this is what we think, conspiracy theory talking, by having these draft picks fall into their lap, and by winning the lottery, and they still do not do well because of the old boys club that is upstairs in the Edmonton Oilers franchise. Fast forward now to the hub cities, and we have Alberta Premier Jason Kenney, who's really been gung-ho to try to get the Edmonton as a hub city to show that it's a world-class city when it's competing against other actual world-class global cities like Vancouver and Toronto, for example. And Jason Kenney says, we need to show Edmonton's a world-class city. People want to come to Edmonton, except players do not want to play in Edmonton. Players want to play in Vancouver. Players want to play in Toronto. Players were adamant on Twitter that they don't want to play in Edmonton for the hub cities in the summer. They do have a nice setup with the new arena, to be fair. It is actually quite nice down there with the they're having a little community. It's called the Ice District. So there's a whole bunch of community stuff around the arena, kind of similar to what Toronto has with the exhibition place. But so Vancouver took themselves out of the running because they didn't want to risk COVID. And the NHL was going to give it to Vegas, but they didn't give it to Vegas because of all the COVID. So, of course, they made it Edmonton and Toronto. So the Western Conference teams are in Edmonton. And now, just to top it all off, there was just a big storm in Edmonton a couple nights ago. And the area around the arena, Rogers Place, the brand new state-of-the-art rink, and the rink were flooded. I saw a video on Twitter of the rink totally covered in pools of water, a couple feet deep, water everywhere flooding the arena. And the league and the team, the Edmonton Oilers, still says that the flooding will not affect Edmonton's choice as a hub city, despite the fact that it's scheduled to start in only a couple weeks' time. And we know that floods take a long time to recover from in terms of damage. So that is why I think there's an Edmonton favoritism for the Oilers and the city, and it bugs me.
All right. That is definitely a valid point. Of course they would get flooding. Yeah, they're definitely world class. That's what it sounds like with flooding after a storm in summertime. So this can't be this. I know Edmonton has a brutal winter, so this is in summertime. But all right. And on that bombshell, guys, it's time to end. Thank you so much for tuning in to Cross Continent Chat Sports Podcast. Good night.